When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to some blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Within the gaming world, there are your general gamers, but then there are those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming. If you're one of those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming, we certainly got the place to send you. Scorpion Lair Games. That's right, Scorpion Lair Games is the creators of the true crime hit Killers, the card game. Let's not forget they also have Killers Clothing Company, their profiler game, and things like the 5-Minute Murder channel on YouTube. And we certainly can't forget the new book that is certainly a hit, Beyond the Headliners, True Crimes, Myths, and Legends. Make sure you visit Jeff and the Scorpion Lair Games on Facebook and everywhere today.
Hello all, this is Frank Trent Saladino Jr., aka Geno, counselor from Sleepaway Camp, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
When I look into your eyes.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Finally happy to make this work with this next guest because we both keep chaotic schedules. And I heard him actually say something recently when I was trying to update my notes for this conversation. And he was talking about how to occupy your time and keep busy, which was educational on another interview. So we'll get into all that.
Okay.
But he's actually going to be a part of our Sleepaway Camp watch party.
1 second.
As he goes to get more props, as we were joking about.
Yes.
And I actually have a copy of this book in my hands, Sleepaway Camp, done by Jeff Hayes.
Jeff Hayes is amazing. Without Jeff Hayes,
I like Jeff.
He's like the lifeblood of all. Of course, you couldn't have done it without Robert Hiltzik and his lovely wife, Missy. But Jeff gave it the CPR, and here we are today.
Yes. But our next guest, it was known as Geno. Mr. Frank Saladino. How are you, sir?
Saladino, yes.
The guy in the center there. It's like that joke I heard somebody tell uh, in boxing the one time. The way you're acting there, it's he was talking about a fight he had. He goes, "I see three of them." His coach would be like, "Hit the one in the middle. Go for the one in the middle."
That was Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, the one in the middle. Frank, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Listen, thank you for the invitation. Crazy Train Radio has been a long time coming for us to try to put this together. And I've been kind of bouncing around all over the world a little bit. And
no, not you. Yeah, like conversations.
Oh my God, I know. Istanbul is next month, by the way. So
yeah,
from Costa Rica and then back to Costa Rica.
Well,
so it's good you nailed me down. So this way, we both can put our heads together and really talk about all the questions you have and have some fun doing it.
Well, let me ask this, because obviously not long after, I think it was not long after Sleepaway Camp, you kind of went into business. And I know when I referenced earlier about occupying your time and stuff, I know according to the internet, which we know is always 100%, you took up reading on like different businesses and just like trying to learn the concept of business.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So what is it you actually do? Because I know, like you said, you're going to be here, there, everywhere. What is it you actually do? Because I know you've done stuff with like Home Depot and Lowe's and all these different big companies. So what is it you actually do?
Well, I am a supplier for Home Depot and Lowe's. If you search Sunrise Teak, like teak wood, they make yachts out of it. So Sunrise Teak and Home Depot and Lowe's, that's all of my products. We have plantations in Costa Rica that we harvest the trees, sustainable farming. We're always replenishing the trees. We're shipping it to our Miami warehouse and showroom, and then we distribute it across the country. So the teak wood we use to make decks, pergolas, fencing, and a variety of custom projects that we work on for hotels. So we're currently working on in Jaco Beach, JACO. It's a 6-acre property, 2 condominium towers, and of which I own one, not tower, but condo, and a 124-room hotel. All of our teak is going to be throughout that resort, and the builder is the same builder who did the Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana, and then we're doing a Ritz Carlton in Eleuthera, Bahamas, another hotel in the Bahamas, and another one in the island of Roatan, Honduras. So we're bouncing around all over the place, but that that really started out basically that's under the umbrella of entrepreneurship, right? Yeah. It's all under the umbrella of entrepreneurship. You don't make a salary, you go out and make your own business. You start things. And I gotta say, it really kind of started when and this goes back to Sleepaway Camp. I was only 19 years old when I auditioned for Sleepaway Camp, and then turned 20. So I turned 20 Friday the 13th. My birthday was on Friday the 13th. And which is great for a horror film, iconic horror film. And so really at that moment, you get to realize what it is when you're kind of doing your own thing. You're your own boss. So you're going out for auditions. It's not a 9-to-5 job.
No.
You could be working anywhere in 24 hours a day. So that's kind of where I first got my taste of, and it's not so much as an entrepreneur because it's not a business. You're with an agent and manager. But
essentially, you are your own brand in business. So.
Yeah, because you're independent. It all goes on to you. It's not like, okay, boss, what do you want me to do? This is the scope of my work. This is what I have to do. I show up at the same place every day. It's if you don't get out of bed and you don't make it happen, nothing's going to happen. So
Yeah.
it was the first taste I had of where you can steer your own boat. And then after that, if you look behind me, let's see over here. This was
From the
we
rap
were the
video.
we became the first white rappers, right? With the Guido rap, we became the Guido MCs. This was 1986. So we did Sleepaway Camp and the first turn on really in 1982. Then 1983 came is when it aired, right? In movie theaters, 1983. Then 1984 we started making records and then putting out videos, and that was which I have. Let's see. Hold on a second. Let's see. Here's.
Is that a first pressing?
Yeah, sure. Well, you asked me a question?
I said, was that a first pressing of that record?
Oh, yes. This was actually after we changed. We called this. So from the Guido rap, I have stuff all over. I can't even find it. But this, we renamed ourselves to Organized Rhyme, and from Organized Crime. And we started early with really finding out how marketing worked. Because if you're an entrepreneur, everything from taking out the garbage to marketing to paying for everything yourself, taking on the risk, failing until you succeed. So I would suggest everybody try that for two reasons. One is see how difficult it is. Okay. And number two is if you try it and you don't like the risk and the uncertainty of entrepreneurship, it will, and in your mind, you're more comfortable with working for a salary, working for someone. Having the entrepreneurial experience will help you be a better worker because your boss or your manager will now recognize that there's something a little different about you. You show up early, you leave late, and if you want to stay on the salary side of things, you will move up the ladder a lot more quickly having an entrepreneurial experience. Whether it's a full background or not, you don't necessarily need that, but just to get your feet wet to see. Perfect example. When we were doing, my background is electrical engineer. And there's these little thing called wire nuts. And when you make a splice, you splice them together, you put the wire nut. So I remember one contractor, the head of the electrical contractor, walking over to an electrician. And he asked the electrician, and he said, do you have like $1 worth of change on you? So the guy pulls out his pocket, goes, yeah, here's $1 worth. He takes $1 worth of change and he throws it on the floor. And the electrician said, why did you do that? He said, that's what you're doing with all of my material. You're throwing the wire nuts all over the floor. That costs me money. So it just gives you a different mindset. It gives you the mindset of what it is to be a boss or an owner. So I would recommend everybody try to start their own business, whether they fail or succeed, just to gain the experience, because it would make you, if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you have to get your feet wet somehow. But if you realize this isn't your cup of tea, it would make you a much, much better worker, because they're going to see entrepreneurial perspectives that you have in your head, will be grateful for your experience, bringing that onto the onto the floor of whatever business you're in, and working for somebody else. And I guarantee you'll get raises more quickly, you'll get promotions more quickly, you will be counted on, relied upon more regularly, and that's how you will move up the salary ladder. So you can't go wrong with that's my advice. It worked for me.
Because the conversation I was hearing you talk about that, and we'll get into the movie and all in a second here.
Sure.
But You you were talking about also, besides doing the book work per se, while you're going to school and learning all this stuff for entrepreneurship and business,
Right. Well, I went to
etc.
college. I have a
Yeah,
bachelor's in business management and economics.
yeah.
I
But
studied it.
you were talking about your cousin as well. Did he who was
Yes.
applying the practice of you can be on, let's say, a salary, and you know what you're getting every week, and you know how you're distributing
Yes.
your paycheck, etc.
You remember
Or you
that,
could
huh?
be surprisingly, I pay attention, but also, or you can be like your cousin said, where he was actually putting that practice into work, where you could be surprised what you do every week, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
He's a Wharton graduate. He was in college at 16. He's very, very rare. Multi-millionaire by 30 years old, late 20s. And so went into college accounting and then graduated a marketing degree at a Wharton. But right out of college, he became at starting at 16, he became an actuary for Mobil Oil in Saudi Arabia and then never returned home again. He left his parents, never to return. Then he moved out on his own, and that was it. And he said, now he's my first cousin, and he's 5 years older than me. So I got to see firsthand how he thinks, his perspective on life, and what I thought was risky and scary, he grabbed the bull by the horns. So his life lesson to me, he said, Frankie, I knew one thing. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to be wealthy. I knew that. So how do you get there? I knew I needed to have my own business. Now, the top job, if you want to be wealthy, is in sales. So learning how to sell anything, because it's the charisma, the knowledge of the product, the interpersonal connections that you have with people is what makes you a salesman or salesperson, we'll say, right? So then you just have to study the product. But he already knew. He said, Frankie, I knew I wanted to be rich. And this is where it comes to having faith in yourself. Because a person who doesn't really have faith in themselves or the wherewithal, maybe because of the lack of training or they just haven't tried it, they rely on a boss. They rely on a regular salary. Because my cousin never had a regular salary, he thought differently. He said, I just wanted to go out and sell products. And I thought it was exciting never to know what I was going to get. I never wanted to base it on a regular pay. Some weeks I'd make more, some weeks I'd make less. But I remember him telling me, he goes, Frank, I just sold $100,000 worth in one sale. So, and this was as computers were coming into being. So this was the 80s. And but the thing is, having him as my cousin, I read a ton of business books, by the way. But having him as my cousin, I got firsthand information from him directly of how he thought and how he applied his way of thinking and what the results of that was. So his thinking was very clear. Know what you want first. I want to be wealthy, period. Okay. My father would say, Frankie, what do you want to do? And he would say, let's take a look at the New York Times. So this is the 70s, right? I remember I was 15 years old. He goes, Frankie, you better, and I still remember this driving. I was going to high school. He said, now's the time to start thinking about what you want to do in life. He said, let's get the New York Times and we'll look in the help wanted and we'll see what the market wants and then how much they make. And I remember looking at engineering and how much they make, chemical engineer, electrical engineer, petroleum engineer. So you start to see where there is a market for people and what their salaries are. And then you work your way backwards. How did they get this? You know, and I did the same thing with my son. We would drive around. I'd say, Frankie, do you want to live? Take a look at these beautiful houses. And then we would go to neighborhoods that weren't as nice. Take a look at these houses. So reverse engineer your life.
Yeah.
These people aren't any better than anybody else. And half of the battle is in your own mind and what you're taught to think. I'm going to tell you, I came up the blue collar way. My grandfather was an electrician in 1918. My father, his two brothers were electricians. Me and my two brothers came up as electricians. My cousin, my wealthy cousin, his father married my father's sister, but he was an attorney. So he grew up in the white collar field. But I got to see how his thought process was. So I had one leg in blue collar and one leg in white collar since I'm 18 years old. And when you start to see this firsthand, number one, you know that there's no BS. Number two, you can ask questions because you have it's available to you to talk to your cousin. By the way, it doesn't have to be your cousin. Go to a business owner and say, I'd like to ask you, how did you do this? How did you either acquire this wealth? How did you acquire this business? Once you acquired it, how did you build it? How did you expand it? What kind of pitfalls were there? What kind of challenges? It never ends. I just had to negotiate for our Costa Rican tariffs with Home Depot and Lowe's a couple of weeks ago. They increased, they hit us with the 10% tariff. Now another 5% on top of that. Our competition is Brazil, which was hit with a 55% tariff. So you have to be worldly, right? Mm-hmm. And but going back for a second, reverse engineer your life. See what it is. Now, my father's, he would say, Frankie, it's too difficult, business. He was more in the line of expand on your talents, play guitar, sing. My father was
baseball, in your case.
Yeah, your talents, right. But here's the thing with baseball, you're relying on somebody to find you. Now it's competition, right? Yeah. So, but if you're going to rely, but yeah, you could say baseball, but so he would have his salary as an electrician, blue collar, but then he would go off. His bit of entrepreneurship was learning music, playing guitar and singing and entertaining for, people in and around Manhattan area. And this included dignitaries and huge developers. So reverse engineer your life. Say, this is what I want. Don't listen. Cut people, cut friendships, cut any people who are going to communicate to you anything negatively or not supportive. And find your circle of friends around those who either want to be with you or, better yet, like Ted Williams said, don't hit Ted Williams, the baseball player, famous baseball player, left fielder for the right fielder for the right fielder for Red Sox. He said, don't ask a 200 hitter how to hit 400. Ask a 400 hitter. So don't ask a guy making $50,000 how to make $1 million. Hang out with those millionaires because they're going to teach you their perspectives on life. They're going to teach you habits. They're going to things start to wear off on you. When you're in a race and, you're kind of racing against yourself. It's not necessary that you have to win the race, but you want to be faster than your last time. But if you're always the fastest guy, you're never going to be faster because the people you want to beat are behind you. You want to always have the people who are better than you in front of you because you can aspire to be them. They're in your circle of influence. You can ask them questions. How do I do this? What did I do wrong? How do you make this happen? And it all comes down with, I listen to Neville Goddard, Brian Tracy, John, I have to think of his name. But anyway, these are guys who, where you live in the end, the feeling is the secret. And and I do this every morning and I do this every night, and I've always done this. I always imagine if I say I want this, that's what I'm telling my subconscious mind is I don't already have it. So what I do is I start off being grateful. Thank you for like I have on my whiteboard over here, I'm the #1 seller of premium products in the entire USA. Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards. And that is exactly what I am, the #1 seller. But I wrote that before I became the #1 seller. You see? So you start to write things, and all of a sudden you say, and then I say, I live here in New York, Florida, Costa Rica, multi-million-dollar properties. I wrote that before I had the place in Costa Rica. All of a sudden, things start to happen. And you can't just take this lightly, where the trick is, think that you're, and I know you're dealing with a half an hour. Tell me if we're going off. Keep me on track. Tell me what topics you want to talk about.
Yeah. Unless we can go a few extra minutes, but yeah, we're doing good. I like where we're going with this. So that's why I didn't interrupt you.
Okay. So live in the end. And by saying, like, if you say to somebody, thank you very much, you say that because you already received something. So say, thank you, God, for having zero debt. Thank you, God, for this wonderful opportunity, or the universe, whatever you want to call it. And I'm always in, overflow, where opportunities come to me effortlessly. And what happens is it always does, because I expect it to. It's the mindset of expectation. I expect opportunities to come to me. I expect for things to work out. I don't wake up in the morning, oh, I got a problem. No. I wake up, thank you for the opportunity I know is going to come to me today. And it never fails. Do you have a question?
Actually, I was going to make the switch because we only got a few minutes left.
Go.
Entertainment side.
Yeah.
But the thing I said I just appreciate why you were explaining what you were explaining there is because, we can ask the same old usual questions and stuff with whatever, but there's always little nuggets, whether you can apply them to your life or not.
Right.
There might, and something there that might not apply for everybody, but there might be something in what you just said, and who will hear this, that they might be able to take and apply and say to improve things or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. There's always something in whatever somebody says, I think.
Can everything I tell you?
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you something. If I had to give everybody out there advice, I gave it to my son. If you want life to work out for you, do one thing, right? Not 10 things, one thing. Have a command of the English language.
Shocker.
Huh?
Shocker, I know.
Have a command of the English language. Now, John Adams, when he would write, how do I know this? Because I study history. I got
a history degree.
That's great. He would write to Thomas Jefferson all the time. And I remember he had a lengthy letter and he said, please forgive me, dear Thomas, for this lengthy letter. I did not have time to proofread it. So what happens is you have, before when you speak, write things down and then truncate them. How do you do that? By having expand your vocabulary. Okay. When you can expand your vocabulary, you could use one word for 3 words. Now you've just reduced 3 paragraphs to 1 paragraph. Be succinct. Okay. Have a command of the English language. Have a command in writing. Now people do this. AI will make you a moron, because without that, you can't think straight. I don't need AI. I don't need anything, because I have what's called a brain. Use it. Use the brain, okay? It's better than AI could ever be. It's better than a computer could ever be. Use the brain. Rely on your brain, okay? So I write everything down. So learn the English language, expand your vocabulary, and then be succinct. So you when you proofread, because first of all, that'll increase your intellect, and learning is always good. And you get your point across directly, quickly, and without being extremely clear. And when people can understand you, they respect you because your thought process is you say precisely what you mean to say. Okay. You are responsible for your words. You are responsible for everything about you, not the outside world. The outside world, your outside circumstances, the house you live in, your economic circumstances, your love life, your everything outside is a shadow of your past. That is a result of your previous way of thinking. People get in a bad habit of thinking because I don't have love now. I can never have love because this is a house I live in, or the job circumstances I'm in. It means this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. No, there's a little delay in how life works. Your current outside circumstances are a result of your past thoughts. When the bus leaves every day, that's what's great about this. The bus leaves every day. You look in the mirror and you change your thought process and you live in reverse of being grateful for maybe a bigger, a beautiful house, secure job, to be wealthy, to be happy, to be loved. If every day you wake up and you say, thank you, Lord, or the universe or whatever, for, having a wonderful, supportive companion, even though you don't have anybody, or thank you for being out of debt, even though you're in debt. That's where you need the strength. You need the strength to still have that feeling. It's the feeling itself, not just the words. You can say affirmations. Affirmations mean nothing. Affirmations don't connect with your subconscious mind. Feeling is what connects. So, for instance, you might think this is crazy, but if I said, look, I want a gorgeous house, and it has nothing to do with things. I'm just giving you an example. If you say, I want a gorgeous house in Miami somewhere, I want you to hear the patio door in your mind's eye go as that suction opens up and you're going out onto the terrace. Feel and use all of the senses that you have. Maybe, smell the salt water when you walk out and you're looking at your property, or you're looking into the eyes of, somebody who you love, or you're looking at a check that has $100,000 written on it. It could be a million things, whatever it happens to be with you. But in your mind's eye, look at what you consider to be your goal, your success, but feel it, because feel it before you go to sleep and when you wake up. And when you get really good at it, like I am, I do it throughout the day. But I've done it for decades, where I expect it to happen and it never fails. So, but start out with learn English. I don't care if it's your second language, third language. Learn English, expand your vocabulary, and be succinct. That will lead you to success no matter what direction you go in life. That is what I told my son. That's 100% correct. And I would tell everybody, I don't care if it has to do with entrepreneurship or not. When you can have a command of communication, people will respect you because you won't, and you think about what you're going to say first, right? And then, because of your expanded vocabulary, you can now, put your thought process in order and then communicate exactly what you mean to say. So that's what I would say. If you were looking for a gold nugget, learn English.
There it is.
That's it. And, big vocabulary and be succinct. Done. And applies to every facet in your life.
All right. So we're about to run out of time. So we're going to have to do a second episode for the entertainment side of things. But the one thing I want to ask you from the entertainment side of things.
Sure.
Because this is something I've taken away from you in the year or so we've been talking, and we were going to do this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But I know it's important to you, just based on, and I'm not going to expose all those conversations, but
okay.
You did. Yeah, it's not right. That was because it was a conversation between us.
Oh, so I don't even remember it, but okay, cool.
But yeah, it's not my place to say that. But the biggest thing you've always been appreciative of is the fans. Whether they came and saw you at FrankenCon, that convention you did, last year in 2024, or they send you stuff in the mail, etc. You know,
Yes.
whether it's from the first turn on the Tremor
Yeah,
film.
that's that movie.
Yes.
First Turn On.
Sleepaway Camp,
And
the
Sleepaway Camp.
music you mentioned earlier where you showed the record.
Yes.
You appreciate the thing I always taken away from our conversations, the appreciation you had from fans. So
Absolutely.
would you be able to briefly
Extrapolate
talk about
or-
that, the fans,
Sure.
and what it means?
Sure. It's also one of the reasons why I left the business. Okay. The business was full of ego. Okay. And I remember Screen Actors Guild on Broadway. I went there about 6 months after doing Sleepaway Camp, and I saw Mike Kellen. And Mike Kellen was Mel. And he was standing in front of, just like this, looking up at the elevator. So I walk over to him and I said, "Hey, Mike, good to see you." I had my hand out like this. I said, "It's been a few months. We did Sleepaway Camp together." He looked at me like this with that smug look on his face. And he turned around and just went back. I never said hello, didn't shake my hand. And I said, "You know what? They really need like a ice cold bucket of water on, like they think who they are." And that's when I left the business. I said, I'm gonna let these guys run my life. If I'm gonna fail, it's gonna be on my own terms. Not because somebody had a bad day, somebody is an egomaniac. Instead of getting, I said, be calm, because when you're calm, you can't have emotion and logic in the same place. So I don't use emotion. I use logic. I said, okay, I have to remove myself from this business because it's run by egomaniac idiots. So I left. But with that being said, the fans, you see, that stuff still is throughout this industry. And I see people, treating fans like that as if, and I look at it, I say, it could have been, I was just fortunate to be Geno in Sleepaway Camp or Jeff in The First Turn On. And that was a long time ago. It's the fans, which Jeff Hayes, kind of perpetuated all this and breathe, breathe life and through his labor of love, and kept this going. Robert Hiltzik Dream, and a wonderful, wonderful movie that was so far ahead of its time. But if it wasn't for the fans, it wouldn't exist. So on the totem pole, you have, Robert Hiltzik started all of this. The fans are what's keeping this the conversation going. Jeff is under that, propping all of this stuff, and people like yourself propping this, feeding it, and we're like down here,
Yeah.
And that's where, to me, that's where we should be. We are grateful from everybody all the way up. But when you have egomaniacs who think they're on top, even better than the guy whose idea it was to begin with, then there's something wrong with you, right? And then pretty soon the fans start to see this and they realize, hey, I'll give you a perfect example. I was a big baseball fan. I remember waiting outside Shea Stadium. I got Tom Seaver's autograph. Shows you how long ago. Dave Concepcion's autograph, Cincinnati Reds. So Johnny Bench, catcher for Cincinnati Reds, shows up in a taxi cab. I go, "Hey, Johnny." I'm probably 8 years old. He opens up the taxi cab and basically knocks me to the floor and just keeps going. Here I am, a fan, a little fan. That's what a lot of these actors, actresses, that's what they do. They kick the fans to the curb. Like, look at me, look at me. They're crazy, these people. Their ego just gets in the way of everything. And I had fans, I said, you know what? I'm actually going to do the reverse of this. I told fans, I said, where is your address? I'm going to send you an 8x10 that people would charge $40, $60 for. And I sent out, I can't tell you how many 8x10 photographs I sent out, not only free, but I paid for the shipping. Because I wanted to show my deep appreciation for the fans, and also as an example of being grateful to the fans, and maybe because I like to live by example, right?
I'm not this is part of the conversation we had, but yeah.
Yeah, live by example. Other people, they think they might, bigger than God kind of thing. And it's just not that way. So maybe if some of the others from wherever, heard, hey, give them back a little bit, little appreciation, goes a long way. These people are spending their hard-earned money, first of all, to get to a convention, right? Waiting online, seeing somebody. When I did Sleepaway Camp, I was the hardest person to get an autograph because I never did any conventions. I just never made myself available. So when we did FrankenCon, the line was out the door to come and see me because they already had their, it was signed by the other cast members, and I was like the only one missing. And I was so grateful that they came to see me. I mean, people from North Pole and from driving, of flying, taking flights. And so I think about, again, growing up blue collar, growing up doing electrical work, from digging holes to knowing how difficult things are. What might not seem to be a lot of money to some people, that's when you got to hey, take your head out of the clouds and go, these people are spending their hard-earned money to see you. Give a little appreciation. For the actor, know your place. You're not all that. Somebody along the way helped you get to where you are. So don't forget that, and just be humble. I know a lot of these actors that look the word up, look up the word, see what it means, try to be that word. It will do yourself, it will make you feel better. If for nothing else, it'll make you feel better. But really, you say thank you to the fans for remembering this. And I even have over here, which I was going to show you, the baseball cards to be memorialized in baseball cards, look, I'd like it to be for the New York Yankees or the New York Mets, but I'll take the baseball cards for Sleepaway Camp any day of the week. So
absolutely.
We're
going to have to do a part 2 with the entertainment side, but
okay.
Frank, thank you so much for the time. And I know we're going to look forward to the watch party and all that stuff too.
Jonathan, it's going to be great. First of all, I apologize for taking so long to have to putting this together, but I hope it was worthwhile. I hope you
absolutely. And like I said, there's stuff people could take out of this conversation and hopefully apply to their life.
That would make my heart feel good. God bless them, and may everything work out in their favor. Thank you so much for you and for all the good work you do for the fans, Crazy Train Radio, and I'm very appreciative to having me on. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Hey folks, looking for the ultimate destination for the nerd enthusiasts and collectors? Well, we found the spot for you. Nerds Nest Collectibles is a haven for nerds, geeks, and fans alike, as they have many different products and certainly more to come. Make sure you go ahead and visit them at nerdsnestcollectibles.com. Check them out.
Hey there, it's Alan Troutman, Tarman from Return of the Living Dead, and if there's anybody you should listen to, it's me, about listening to Crazy Train Radio. Go do it. Go away. Do it now.